you so much. All right, thank you so much for having me. I just have to, like, on a personal side, say that I started in product like 25 years ago, and nothing like this existed, and we all just kind of figured it out on our own. And just, I'm so envious of everybody that's here that gets a forum to learn from each other and from other people that have been doing this for a while. So I stand between you and cocktails or getting home, so I'm going to try and be quick, and I'm going to try and be quick because my talk is about embracing speed and betting on speed during this time of ambiguity. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how we do product at Slack and how we stay fast through these ambiguous periods. So you've heard throughout the course of the day, obviously we've seen a Cambrian explosion of AI products, AI companies, AI features out there. But you're also, which makes every single company, probably yours included, your customers, your company, have FOMO, right? Like every single company is like, I gotta go build the AI things, I gotta go build the AI things, I need the AI things. But we're also in the middle of this period of sustained economic uncertainty. So customers don't know if they should buy, if they should bet on the new thing. Like your own company may not know, like, hey, should we really be investing in this so much right now, or how should we? And people want roadmaps. Roadmaps are the bane of product's existence, I think. But especially in this time period, they are one of the worst concepts. They are completely irrelevant in this time. So I want to talk a little bit about how I think roadmaps are not what we need right now, but what we can do instead. And because saying that there is no feature roadmap, I think is something that makes everybody extremely nervous. As a product manager, that's kind of what you produce. It's kind of what your bosses expect out of you. But again, I want to argue it's just absolutely the wrong thing for this time. And so I think what we need to be doing instead is planning for outcomes. So I hope everybody here is thinking deeply about their customers and the outcomes they want to achieve for them. But that's what we should be planning, right? We should not be planning individual features. We should be thinking about the outcomes we want to achieve for our company and for our customers. And we should treat our plans as a series of hypotheses that we're going to go test. And in doing so, we should test those hypotheses through rapid prototyping. So the beauty of today, whether it's V0, Lovable, I think you've heard a number of these companies talk, like the access to prototyping and the ability to prototype is so much more democratized than it has been historically. It gives us all the ability to test our hypotheses much faster than we've been able to do before. But if you don't have a roadmap, a lot of companies and a lot of bosses are going to say, well, how do we make sure people are working on the right things, right? They're not just willy-nilly out coding or prototyping, whatever it is that they want to work on. So what we do, and where I'm going to spend most of our time, is actually talking about leveraging product principles to guide fast-paced, day-to-day product decisions. So I think the most important things for every single PM to have out there, and hopefully your companies have this, most companies actually don't. These are questions you should be able to ask yourself as you're looking at features and working with your engineering team. Like, what is the mission of our company? Am I working on something that helps us progress the mission? Does it move us towards the vision that we have? Is it in the spirit of achieving the outcomes that we said during our lightweight planning process? And does it follow the product principles that we've established for ourselves as an organization? And the hero of this whole thing, in my opinion, and I think in our opinion at Slack, is actually the product principles. So we're going to spend some time talking about product principles. Who here has, first of all, who uses Slack? I should have said thank you first. I didn't say thank you. I'm assuming you all like it a little bit, but you all probably have your own individual feedback. You can find me afterwards. Who here has product principles? All right, so almost all of you use Slack, but a very, very small fraction of you actually have product principles. So when we talk about product principles, what are product principles? These are the fundamental propositions that serve as the foundation for how you make decisions about your product within your company. And you use these to inform execution. This is not about road mapping. This is not about strategy. This is about day-to-day execution within teams. And you do this so that you can be better and faster at your decisions. So I'm going to talk about this here in a minute, but the uncomfortable truth about product is the overwhelming majority of product decisions aren't made by product managers. They're made by people in the engineering team and the design team. They're made by people in your customer support organization. Everybody that's working on the customer experience associated with the product is making product decisions. Now, how do you use these? You can use these to evaluate your team's work. You can do it in a formal way, or you can do it informally throughout the ways that the teams work. And that's how we use them, is through workshops on a weekly basis within our individual feature teams. All right, for a fun read, I would say go check out that URL. Ethan, our former head of design, wrote an article about why teams need product principles. I'd highly recommend you all go give that a shot. So I'm going to talk about our product principles, but first I want to reiterate that I think the most important thing about product principles is scaling decision making. So who here uses Linear? I'm going to give another company an ad real quick, but Linear is an awesome product. Non-Yu is the head of product at Linear. Recently on LinkedIn, he wrote that the inconvenient truth about product is that over 50% of product decisions are actually made by engineers. So if you're a great engineer with a good mindset, he was like, come talk to us at Linear. And I think that's what the product principles give you, is a way to scale decision making into your design and engineering organizations in a way that you no longer need meetings about these things. Every single person is just inherently making good product decisions because they know what your product principles are. So that's the single biggest speed gain I think we can all have in this time. So I'm going to talk about Slack. So we had a 4-part master plan that Stuart wrote many, many moons ago. And the fourth prong of that 4-part strategy was this: do some magic AI stuff. And there was literally no detail. It was 6, 7, 8 years ago that this was written. But now is the time, obviously, to go do some magic AI stuff. And we have said to our teams, go do some magic AI stuff. And that is really scary for somebody who's like writing the checks, or somebody who is expecting individual features to be on the roadmap, because we didn't say that. We just said go do some magic AI stuff and come back and show us what you got. And I'm going to talk to you about how we do that. So our product principles, we have 5 product principles. We live and breathe these every single day. So the first is don't make me think. Second is be a great host. Third, and probably most important, is prototype the path. I'll spend a bunch of time on that. Fourth is probably the most academic, which is seek the steepest part of the utility curve. I'll spend some time on that. And then lastly is take bigger, bolder bets. So I'm going to walk you through each of these. First is don't make me think. The software should not get in the way of the user. The user should not have to spend time trying to figure out your software. They have a job to be done. So make sure you're guiding them with familiar patterns that they've seen before, and ensure the path to the job to get done is as quick as humanly possible. So we spend a lot of time in Slack actually thinking about comprehension, or optimizing for comprehension over clicks. A lot of people read this and are like, let's reduce clicks. But we will oftentimes have more clicks and potentially more words so that it's comprehensible and people don't have to think at every step of the way of necessarily what's going to happen. Now, for each of these, I'm going to give you an example. So one of the things that we've done recently in the spirit of don't make me think is a feature we call AI search answers. We launched this about 2 years ago. A lot of products have this at this point. You can see it from Google and when you're in AI mode. But one of the inconvenient things about search in the past is a human being would have a question, and that human being would have to think about how to transpose their question from a question in natural language into keyword search terms so that keyword search engines could actually go find the things. Now you can just ask the question, right? So at the top of the search bar, we put little text in that says, ask me anything. So people know now, hey, let's go ask a question. When they ask a question, they don't get search results. They actually get a combination of search results and a natural language series of answers that are automatically typed out to them like a human would speak back to them when asking the question. So there's an example of don't make me think. These are scattered throughout our product, but I would consider those as well. Like every single time you're working through and prototyping something, is there a moment where you could save somebody a step? Next is be a great host. So you heard Dylan earlier talking about Airbnb. This is inspired from Airbnb. So we have a number of people at Slack that came from Airbnb. When you book an Airbnb and you go into the Airbnb, like you're super excited about the house. You're like, you found that one in Tahoe. It looks awesome. It's got trees in the backyard. And then you walk in and you're like, where the hell are the towels? And where's the cutlery? Right? That's not being a good host. So we aim to be great hosts with our software. And what we mean by that is we want to surpass people's expectations. So the product should get the job done, but in doing so, it should really exceed their expectations for what the experience is going to be like. There's an example of this that we recently launched, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, actually, called AI explanations. So if you're on an AI-enabled plan, you have access to this feature. But I get pulled into incidents all the time as a product leader, and I'm like, oh my God, what are these engineering leaders talking about? Like, I have no idea what that acronym is. I have no idea what that piece of technology is. I have no idea what that concept is they're even talking about. I could bug the engineers that are in the middle of the incident. I could poke the incident commander, but that would be massively inefficient. I could look at one of these messages and take all the things I don't understand and put them up in the search box, but that would be massively inefficient for me. Or I could just click the sparkles on the message and it could take the entire message, post it into the LLM, and give me a natural language explanation of the message and all the context around it. So this is just one of those examples of us, like, we want to, when somebody lands, we want things to be where they expect it, and we want to exceed their expectations, right? They got the message, they don't understand it, it's just a single click and they have an explanation for it, and they don't have to bug other people. All right. Next is prototype the path. I'm going to spend the most time on this. This is the most important, as I mentioned. So if you use V0 or Lovable or Bolt or Cursor or any of these, this is so much easier today than it's been in the past. But we live and breathe this. This is like, we say, get to code as quick as possible. And we think we can move with greater speed and impact the faster we are in code and can actually feel the product in our hands. So there's going to be some controversial things in here, I think. So the first thing about prototyping is to start with a small team that has a problem or an idea or an inkling that you want to pursue. And it's really important that that team, it should really feel uncomfortably small. Like, you should feel like you're leaving somebody out. It just, like, it should feel almost wrong because there's not a full team associated with it. I'm going to go back a slide. I don't know if anybody's successfully done that. Can I go back one slide? All right. I would encourage everybody to go read. Has anybody read this slime mold article by Komorowski? I would encourage everybody to go read this. One of the reasons we want to keep teams as small as possible when we're prototyping is to reduce coordination overhead and coordination headwinds. The more and more people you add to a project, the more and more difficult it is for everybody to stay aligned, right? And coming back to the whole point of this conversation, in this time of ambiguity, we want to be as fast as we possibly can. So the best way to guarantee that is to have an extremely small team. And I really mean that. You should probably take somebody off the list when you think about the team that you're putting together to pursue a particular prototype. And something spicy, as we say in Slack, is you might not even want a PM to be on that team. So we often start these small prototypes and small pursuits, if you will, with just a designer and an engineer, where it's just like, let's just cut down as small as we possibly can the team that's going to go pursue this. And we always end up putting a PM on things. But in that moment, for making like really, really quick decisions about how something will feel in your hands, it's often great to just have a designer and engineer working together. And I would say start with what you want to learn. Don't start with the feature that you want to build. Like, every single prototype is a test, right? It's a hypothesis test, right? And the goal is to build a prototype so you can answer the question. And you do that and you quickly create these prototypes. You need to be ready to throw these things away. Again, this is another thing that's beautiful about the technology that's available to us today. We celebrate tossing code because we want to get something in our hands as quick as possible to see if we can actually answer the question or learn what we set out to do. And then once we do that, we say, get to the next hill. Like, you may have this goal of getting to the top of Everest, but you can't just go straight to the top of Everest. You have to make a series of hill climbs in order to get to the top of Everest. So in those hill climbs, each one of those hills is a question you're asking. And the question should get increasingly difficult as you go hill to hill. And as I mentioned, you should feel really good tossing code. This is really uncomfortable for people, but get to code as quick as you can, feel it in your hands, toss it, and then once you have found something that sticks and you really want to do, take the time to do it the right way. But you're trying to get to the answer to the question as soon as possible. Now, here's an example. Who here has used the new activity within Slack? Okay, not everybody yet. So this is something we're working on. This is extremely messy. So what we do is we have the benefit of using our own product. So we have 3,000 people that use our own product, and we're part of Salesforce, so we now have 75,000 employees that we can run tests on before we give it to our customers. And so this will show you the evolution of activity in Slack, which is going to be extremely messy. But all of this happened in code with users, right? So we started experimenting with adding things to the top. We got rid of the sidebar. We introduced new buttons and filters. We started putting in these summaries within. We started removing white space. We added like a dense view, a compact view. We added these tabs that are up here at the top. We finally got your DMs into your activity as opposed to separate from your channels. And we landed on these two particular views, one dense and more roomy. We added in context buttons. But again, we did this over the course of like 5 months, live with users, like yelling at us many of the times as we were moving their cheese, as we like to say. But we've come to something that feels really good in our hands, and we're actually starting to roll this out to customers as part of a pilot right now. So it's extremely messy. It should feel uncomfortable. All right, next is probably the most academic, so you're gonna have to bear with me. And so seek the steepest part of the utility curve. Utility curves are everywhere. There are many axes that you can put on utility curves. But the thing we want product people to know is that there's a nonlinear relationship between the effort that you put into a product and the value that's achieved by a customer or user from your product. You can also think of the utility curve that I prefer is if you make something easier, people's behavior will change, right? We've seen that with Uber, we've seen that with Airbnb. So if you make it easy enough to get access to a shared ride, the total available market for taxi rides increases, right? Same thing, like if you make it easier to get access to like a room in another location to stay, like the total available market for travel increases, which Uber and Airbnb have done. So if you make something easier enough, people will dramatically change their behavior. So if you don't put enough effort in, a lot of people don't reach that inflection point where the curve starts to like rapidly go up. But if you go too far, like the marginal improvement that you get from a user perspective is starts to wean out. So it's all about finding that steep part of the utility curve. Who here has used Canvas within Slack? All right, more people. So think of Canvas as like a flexible container for things in Slack. It can be videos, it can be text, like you can write documents, you could write a spec, but you could include links out to some YouTube videos, some profile cards from engineers on your team as an example. So we did this 2 or 3 years ago, and I'm not gonna use exact weekly active user numbers, but we did this about 2 years ago, and our weekly active users were pretty flat. Like it was over 1 million, you know, which is good. But like for the number of users that we have, it wasn't great. So we're like, God, should we just, you know, should we stop doing this? Like, we're like, maybe we haven't gone far enough. And so we started to experiment with a few other things. And this is stuff that we've done in the last 6 months. So we've added canvases to channel tabs. So channels now have tabs within Slack. You can add a canvas. So think of like a feature channel that you have with your engineering and design team. You could put your PRD or your product brief into a channel via Canvas in Slack. We also had a default tab within direct messages for one-on-one topics. All right, so we added that. We then added AI to Canvas so that you could help bootstrap or write documents either from a channel or say a search result that you just executed. We then started automating huddle notes with AI so it would spit it out into canvases. And this shows you how we hadn't reached the steepest part of the utility curve. So if you look in July here, so I stripped off the actual WOW numbers from the left-hand side to protect the customer base and the data. But if you look at July of 2024 to July of today, that feature had been around prior to July of 2024 for 2 years. And then we started prototyping out these other ideas and adding those, and you see WOW just start to kind of hockey stick up to the right. So we just hadn't gone far enough from an effort perspective to see that dramatic behavior change. So we've actually seen a 100% increase in weekly active users over the course of the last year as a result of going a little bit further on that utility curve. All right. Lastly, you should take bigger, bolder bets. Now some people do this sometimes when they shouldn't. So when we talk about taking bigger, bolder bets, like if there is a pattern that works, like don't go reinvent the wheel, full stop. But if there's something that is like fundamentally broken and you think you can make it 10x better, like go ahead and take that swing. You know, and this is, if you think of like your product investments in terms of bets, this is your extremely high variance one. So this would be like a small portion of your product portfolio and bets that you're making, but it's extremely important. And so who here has, like, we've had something in Slack for like 10 years now. Slackbot will like send you notifications. It says like, hey, so-and-so archived that channel, or you've been added to this channel over here. So a lot of people were wondering, like, what if we took that Slackbot, this kind of brand that we know about, and this thing that already notifies you, and happens to be a user in every single instance of Slack around the world, and evolved it into something that was a little more personal and friendly and helpful. And so this is something we're actively prototyping right now. You don't all have access to it, but this evolved Slackbot from this kind of mechanical bot that tells you about channels that have been archived into something that's sitting there on the right-hand side and that can actually help you throughout your day in Slack. And so we think that's something that we can fundamentally change and make better, despite it being a pattern that's already out there. All right, I think I'm doing okay on time, actually. I was not expecting this. So I'll leave you all with this, and then go get your cocktails, beer, or home to your families. I would just reiterate, plan for outcomes. Treat your plans as a series of hypotheses. Really embrace prototyping. It's an incredibly powerful tool, and nothing will ever, like I mean, frankly, no Figma. We love Figma. We use the heck out of Figma, but no Figma or no document, you're just not going to be able to predict what users' feedback is going to be the way that you could by putting a prototype into their hands. So I just cannot emphasize enough the importance of that and the long-term speed benefits you get by doing that. And then lastly, give it product principles a crack. Like, you may not lead a product organization to be able to do it for your whole company, but do it for your team. Like, what are the things that absolutely you're not willing to give on for your particular product or feature area? Like, and make sure that you scale that out to your design and engineering counterparts, because again, you're not going to be making all the decisions on a day-to-day basis. But if you have this framework and like system of beliefs that everybody rallies around, you can ensure that the right decisions are made more consistently than not. And with that, thank you for your time. I hope you all have a great rest of your day.